When we're in the frequency of fear, it completely constricts our life force energy, and it's going to attract potentially more situations, more people, more things that represent that frequency of fear. So now let's say you're heading into a meeting and you're all crunched up and you're like, oh God, this is going to happen, right? Every Wednesday. And you're now like, you're already in this space of knowing it's coming and trying to figure out what to do with that. So the first thing that was very helpful for me in the zoom out conversation, here's what I mean by zoom out. I want you to think about the full environment that you're working within and all the places that blip up for you when you think about that when you think about it, that create a fear response in you. It could be a person, it could be a meeting, it could be anything. Whatever comes up first. I want you to now see all of those in front of you almost like a timeline, as like bubbles outside of you, and put each one of those circumstances or people in a bubble. And see yourself remove from those bubbles so that you can see them all at once. And now what that does, I'm total goosebumps on this. So now what that does is it allows you to see yourself as separate from all of those things, because often what happens is we are right in that bubble with them. And there is this constant energy transfer going on. When you're in that zoomed out state, this is where there's more space for asking the questions. What are these circumstances trying to teach me? What are the things about what I'm going through that I can maybe extract a little bit of nectar, a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of opportunity to learn more about myself and what I need? You can journal on those themes. You can just let them kind of remain as questions when you open it and you just leave it as a question. Sometimes those things kind of stumble to us like, oh, I didn't realize that was a pattern that I had with this person. You can ask yourself, is this old or is this new? Mm-hmm. Is this feeling, is the circumstance old or new? Typically what I hear from a lot of people is, well, this theme has shown up for me in every single place I've worked for. And that usually means it's tied to something karmically that we are here to work through in this lifetime.
And that's how I knew my experience was not tied to that, because I was like, I'm going through this. It is not a me thing. It is an external factor. Mm-hmm. So as you are, and this was really like during my spiritual awakening and kind of when I was coming into just all the noticing, and it had happened similar to when I was a police officer, but it wasn't the same feeling. Like that was just, I needed to leave that environment. I was meant to do something more. So in finding my way and doing all these other career paths and stuff, this is something that I noticed that was just something that, no.
It's a one-off.
It was a value trip.
Yeah.
And for me, it severed. And I was like, no, this is just not right. I'm not supposed to be here, but I'm not supposed to be here because I'm not supposed to be here doing something better.
Yes.
It's because this is not aligning with, it's constricting my energy. And you mentioned something really important about life force energy. So if you can dive into that, because I just want people to really understand what life force energy really is and how it's utilized, like how we know we even have life force energy.
Yep, 100%. So just on that theme of the pattern versus the one-off, for me, how that showed up is I recognized I was saying yes in a lot of ways that I really meant no. Mm-hmm. And when I was doing that, I was able to trace that back to like the past decade of my life. It had gotten better over time, depending on the relationship and what the risk was. But I had to find ways to communicate that maybe it wasn't a yes and maybe it's not a no, but I needed to find strategically the pathway that allowed me to still find my voice without necessarily feeling like I was putting up some kind of hard brick wall. And so life force energy, when we think about, I forget which episode it was where we talked about the states of water, the constricted state of ice, all the way to vapor. And life force energy, I always think about, and you can probably think of people right now where you can tell that their light is on. They are maybe the definition of higher frequency, just meaning like you can see clearly into their eyes. They are bringing something, a presence with them that feels very genuine for who they are. That doesn't mean that they're not tired one day. It doesn't mean like any of that. It just means there is that there is something to all of us that is really connected to our energetic body, right? And so we have our physical body, but even our physical body is made up of a lot of different cells and structures that aren't even touching. Everything is vibrating, right? So when they study the electromagnetic fields around us as individuals, there's an interconnectedness to all of us that I always feel
So I
is
don't kill them.
so nature always mirrors itself, right? There's like layers of this. So when I think about what's going on inside of the body, I almost see like planet Earth as like an organ. And all of the people on the planet are like cells within that body. And if you think about the whole solar system that way, this is the stuff I geek out on. I have heard that the Earth is like the liver. This is the place where we
Ooh.
come and incarnate to filter out. So we're filtering out everything from our environment, from our relationships, within our own bodies all the time. So back to this like larger um comparison, right? When we zoom in, let's say there are areas of your, if you see your organization as an organ, and each of the employees is like a cell, and each cell is either emitting a negative, we have negative and positive ions all the time,
Mhm.
obviously. But when you think about the definition of poisoning the well, for example, let's say you have one area of the business that is a group of cells, and there are some that are very dysfunctional. They are not operating from a place of higher frequency and from full life force that is connected back to understanding how the way that we move impacts everything around us. So what happens is that spreads, and then it can become like one area of the organization is experiencing a ton of dysfunction because it's highly contagious.